this over to Mr. Mayor.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to the February 8th, 2022 Brier City Council meeting. First of all, we'll have roll call. Council Member Nick.
Here.
Councilmember Roseman.
Here.
Councilmember Lockhart.
Here.
Councilmember Krinky. What happened to Martin? Oh, there he
Did
is.
you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, Councilmember Moran,
I am here.
Councilmember Marley,
Here.
and Councilmember Gallagher.
Here.
All right, welcome everyone. Moving on to the public requests and oral communication portion of the meeting. This is when citizens can raise their hand and ask a question of myself or the council, and we'll recognize them, name and address, please.
Okay, I'm letting Maria in.
All right, welcome Maria, name and address.
Hello, Maria, 21200 Block Poplar Way. Thank you so very much for allowing me to speak again this week. I have a question and a comment. I'll start out with my comment. It's about the snow and ice plan that you all discussed during the workshop.
Yeah.
I did get some rough numbers of collisions that occurred in late 2021, early 2022, due to snow and ice specifically, from the temporary police clerk that was covering. And in 2021, there were 30 collisions, that is 30 collisions, that occurred because of the snow and ice. Most of those occurred on Brier Road and 228. And there were a few on Vine Road, which the city ended up closing Vine Road due to the collisions. These numbers happened with, I think the actual snowfall was 3 days. It might have been 4, but you know, there was plenty of snow that lingered after those days, which contributed to ice on the road, and then of course the collisions. There was some hesitancy from some of the council members about you know, spending the money for snow and ice removal, due to things like environmental issues and the fact that there was only like 2 to 6 days, I believe, Councilmember Krinky said, of snow per year. I urge you not to use those numbers as a deterrent to get snow and ice removal in the city of Brier. Environmental impacts, yes, there will be impacts. However, it won't be as great. The biggest impacts for environment is when it's consistently used throughout the year. 2 to 6 days is not going to create such a huge concern for environmental issues. The fact that some of us have to get to work regardless on if it snows is my biggest concern. And with the 30 collisions in, it was 4 days of snow and ice, is a steep price for the residents to pay, I think, for snow and ice. So my question to you, Mr. Mayor, or the council members, if they choose to answer, what discussions have you had since the workshop about the snow and ice removal? And is it going to be a possibility to bring better snow and ice removal to the city of Brier?
Okay, I think what I'm going to do here is, thank you for your question. I think I'm going to make note of the questions. I'm assuming we're going to have a number of questions maybe on this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the other questioners or the other people that would like to talk. And then I'll respond. I'll let the council respond. Maria, thank you for your question. If you don't get the response, that you think you deserved, please feel free to call myself this week, or Steve. Steve was on with us. For those of you who don't know, Public Works Director Steve Smith was with us, and we at our workshop, we went through an extensive review of all the factors with respect to snow and ice removal. So I'm going to move on now, and then we'll come back and answer all the questions at once.
Okay, I'm gonna allow Kate Lunsford in to speak.
All right, welcome, Kate. Name and address, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Kate Lunsford, and I'm speaking on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County, P.O. Box 1146, Everett, Washington, 98206. And I'm here tonight to ask the City Council to endorse the letter to Snohomish County Council supporting the urban tree canopy policy. I hope forwarded to you by CM Roseman. The policy is proposed by CM Dunn for the adoption into the Snohomish County Comprehensive Plan update. We are at a crossroads in our county where growth can overwhelm our natural systems. The policy will create a framework for accessing resources to protect and enhance urban tree canopy to bring its tremendous benefits to our lives and environment. The policy language is guided by the Evergreen Community Act in Washington state law. It's been revised and reviewed by legal experts and county staff. The policy gives jurisdictions the ability to tap technical support from the Washington Department of Natural Resources to respond to climate justice. Tools include tree assessment, tree inventory, forestry plans, surface water management, public education, and guidance on ordinances and incentives. Urban tree programs can bring economic benefits to property owners. Trees and natural areas are highly valued by home buyers. Jobs can be created around the management of urban forests and may be eligible for funding by the American Rescue Plan and Washington's Community Forestry Assistance Grants. There certainly must be a balance of goals while managing growth. I hope you will take some time to review Forterra's Tree Retention on Privately Owned Land, published in 2020, which says, quote, as the Puget Sound region grows, the question of how to retain trees while maximizing housing affordability and economic development is an increasingly important issue facing policymakers. The idea that dense development is not compatible with tree preservation is a paradigm ripe for revisiting, unquote. The report is a result of research and interviews and provides more recommendations on planning issues. We believe plans for dense housing near transit can weave the functions of the natural world into this human development. The city of Brier shows its commitment to the value of the outdoors with the Brier Walks program and the Brier Wildlife Habitat Project. The skills and passion of your neighbors show their willing hands for these programs. We think the community county-wide hungers for opportunity too. The letter's been signed by 23 groups, including the Mayor and City Council of City of Snohomish and of Montlake Terrace, Climate Alliance of Snohomish County, FutureWise, Puget Sound Keeper, Washington Physicians for Social Responsibility, Livable Snohomish County, Interfaith Climate Action, among others. Please help Snohomish County bring these resources to our community by signing this letter of endorsement. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
Okay, thank you, Kate.
Okay. I'm letting Sham into the meeting.
All right, Mr. Authorman, name and address, please.
Sure. Hisham Othman, 3601 228th Street. My comment to the council is regarding the intersection of Poplar Way and Vine Road. There's a crosswalk signal there, and I'm wondering if it can be upgraded to be similar or match the one that Montlake Terrace has near the Cedar Plaza shopping area. It's my understanding that there have been some near misses with kids crossing the street after school, and I'm not sure if the current ones we have are highly visible to drivers, and think mirroring those that Montlake Terrace has would be a benefit and safety for all.
All right, thank you for that question, and I will respond to it at the end here. Thank you. Anything? Okay. Next.
I'm allowing Bill and Jess Bartig to talk.
Welcome, Bill and Jess. Name and address, please.
Thank you. Bill and Jess Bartig over at 3417 227th Street Southwest. We just want to take a moment to thank Katie, was it, for that great presentation on the urban tree canopy work that Snohomish County is doing. I'd really like to encourage our city council here to read up on it, pay attention to it, and endorse it, because as residents here, we endorse that movement as well. Urban tree canopies provide a ton of benefit for our residents here, and ignoring that not only harms our residents, harms the environment and also the city with things like stormwater runoff and all kinds of issues. So please consider it, pay attention to it, read up on it, and endorse this great initiative. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else I'd like to address myself or the council in this public request and oral communication portion of the meeting? Please raise your hand. All right, one more time. Anybody that would like to address the council, please raise your hand. Paula, do you see anyone?
Nope.
All right, thank you. Moving on. Before we move on, I'm going to address some of the questions. So Maria, thank you for your question. With respect to the snow and ice discussion, we've had staff discussion subsequent to that workshop meeting. As far as the city council, we have had no other discussion. I think it'd be fair on my part to say that in general, my read from the city council was that significant changes to the snow and ice removal policy will not be taking place. We did learn lessons from the last event. Unfortunately, as you know, we had several staff members out sick, which kind of limited our ability to respond because we just didn't have the personnel that could do it. Like I said before, we did learn some things that we will be changing for next year, but I did not get the sense from the council that they would like us to make significant changes with respect to allocation of resources for snow and ice removal. And I'll let the council members respond to that at this time if I misread their response. Anybody want to say anything with respect to snow and ice removal from the council?
I'll just note, yes, there was the environmental, also the cost, the migrations to some of these other chemicals, everything that was required, the impact to the equipment was a quite dramatic number. And so at least I know from part of that conversation, that was an aspect of it, was just sheer, and I know a lot of people were sitting in on that workshop. So that was a concern. I think also just generally, we do know we had this anomalous situation where it was just bad timing and all that, but that is not to minimize the concerns that people have. And I know that we will continue to have conversations on ways, can we do that maybe are a bit more economical and such on that front. So that would just be a little bit I would add, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right.
Sorry, a little slow on the take.
Go ahead, Val.
Martin, your volume's just a little low. You might nudge it up for the rest of us.
Oh, okay. All right. Good to know. Make sure.
But that's not why I'm talking. Sorry.
Okay.
I would like to second what Martin said. I do think we're in a situation that led to a number of incidences that created a dangerous situation at several intersections. Boy, I'm going to talk properly now. Watch out, guys. But I think that it really was a coalescing of events, and it wasn't that we have poor road management and street snow removal in general. I think this storm the previous year, our crew did an amazing job, and our roads were actually really safe, I thought, and easy to ride on. I think we did talk with Steve also about maybe doing some more proactive communication with drivers about making those particular intersections that we know can be problematic a little bit safer. I think it's not only were the roads really slick in certain spots, but we also have some drivers who are perhaps uneducated in proper snow technique of driving, and we can help them by providing extra warnings when we know that there's a dangerous intersection during slippery weather. So I think that we can take forward strides, but I personally do not support putting an 8,000 gallon tank and containment in our city. I just don't think that we'll use the materials often enough, and I think that having that much snow removal chemical kept year over year is just going to create problems and not solve them. So, but I do think that as a crew, they are definitely going to be proactive, and we will strive to have safer roads next year.
You know, I want to support that too. I think that we had some odd events this year, but in general, the crews do well. We can certainly improve planning and preparation, but the real challenge is such a huge jump in costs, no matter which way we go. It's just not something we can really afford. It's containment, like Val mentioned, chemical use and equipment. So we're kind of working more to be more efficient rather than spending more money.
Anybody else on the snow and ice? All right, thank you. So with respect to Mr. Othman's questions about the intersection of Poplar and Vine. So this intersection is one that is constantly on our radar. We actually right now are in the process of getting the numbers by doing street counts. That's those lines that you see across the street so that we know the traffic patterns in and out of that intersection. This is something that once we get those numbers, we'll be working with our city engineer to determine, is there some things that can be done with respect. We've had questions with respect to the lighting, the flashing lights, and the Molly Terrace example has been brought to our attention. So what I'll say is thank you for those comments, and we are aware, and we are actually right now getting those kinds of numbers so that we can, with the assistance of our city engineer, decide if we need to upgrade what we have at that intersection. I know it's a difficult intersection, especially at certain times of the day. Getting in and out of there has created a problem. And then, of course, visibility of pedestrians is also something that we've heard from a number of people about. So it is definitely an area of concern that we have become aware of as staff, the city staff, and we are working with once we get those numbers, we work with our engineer to see if there's improvements that we can do. Any council member want to respond to that question?
I was just going to note, Mayor, on that, yeah, this has been definitely an Can you still not hear me well, Val?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I agree with Valerie. You're way softer than you normally are, Martin.
Okay. Then I will.
Go ahead, Martin. We can hear you.
Just talk louder.
All right, I will try and talk louder, and we'll see what happens. Sorry, I don't know quite what's going on there. Anyway, so we must switching between machines. What I would say is this intersection, we're 216 Vine turns into 216 right there. Yeah, that's the reason those flags were there. Yeah, it's still been an issue. We know the cars pulling out when it gets snowy and icy. We also know that's another one of the common challenges. Certainly people have brought up things like the speed humps and stuff that gets into challenges with the roads. But I think, yeah, the flashing lights or some of these others. I mean, I think it is another one of these that we do. It's, I think, the one that we hear the most about, we see the most as issues, and trying to figure out what is the next way. Perhaps the flashing lights is a good next step. We also have the challenge of those folks trying to turn, you have the people try to turn north on the Poplar, and those that try to turn south, and one screening the other out, and those get to be very interesting. So that is probably our most challenging intersection, I think, that we have. And we'll just keep looking at this, see if we can find some next steps. I definitely encourage the mayor to keep working that way.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? The council want to respond to the questions or comments? Go ahead, Val.
Just briefly, I also had wondered if, similar to the fire station there, the way that there's an alert light prior to it, if it might be worthwhile on the southbound side coming from the fire department towards Vine Road, if it might be worth putting an alert light further down that way to show people who are coming around that blind corner that there's actually going to be someone crossing the street. I don't know wiring wise if that's anything possible, but it occurred to me.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Just checking, is my audio any better?
That's
It's
a
a little
lot
better
better.
Zoom went into an auto gain control on my mic, so I've turned that off.
Usually we don't have trouble hearing you, Martin. So.
That's usually not the complaint I get. Yes, I'm very shocked when I hear that.
All right, thanks everybody. Moving on now to the reports of committees and city officials. First of all, I'm going to welcome Chief Hovis from South County Fire to our meeting tonight for his annual report. First, I just like to say my thanks to the chief for the support that he has provided. The communication has been excellent. I think the chief was the first person that met with me when I became mayor a couple of years ago, and working with his staff who show up at our every week at our staff meeting. They show up and work well with our staff, providing the support that we need. I just can't say enough good things about South County Fire and their service to the safety of our citizens. And so with that, I know the chief's got a number of people on staff here that he's going to introduce. And so welcome to the meeting, Chief Hovis.
Thank you, Mayor. That's a great introduction. I appreciate that. I tried to be at least the first person from our whole county to welcome your new police chief, but I think Chief Koff from Mount Lake Terrace beat me to it. So
Yes,
it was great. And I really appreciate the relationship that we have as an agency with the city of Brier. And for council members that may have forgotten, or new council members, I'm an old Brier firefighter, Mount Lake Terrace firefighter. We protected Mount Lake Terrace and Brier. That's my legacy agency, and we'll be talking a little bit about that through a video presentation later, but we're sure happy to be here tonight. So thank you for the invitation. I'll go into introductions next. We have Deputy Chief Bob Eastman with us tonight. And Bob's right there. We'll be giving a little bit of the presentation, as well as our Public Information Officer and well-known Brier resident, Leslie Hines. So I just want to thank them for their service to our communities. Chief Eastman and I will be celebrating 26 years here in April. And Leslie is just 2 years behind Bob and I with 24 years. So thanks both of you for joining us tonight. Paula, Mayor, Council, I know I gave an invitation to the Fire Station 18 crew as well. So I don't know if they can be elevated to panelists, but we do have Captain Kurt Hilt, firefighter Paul Murphy, and firefighter paramedic Josh Young that were going to join us tonight. But if you heard sirens at City Hall passing one way or the other, that could have been them. So they may be logging in here shortly. So, and there we go. All right. So again, thank you for the invitation opportunity to present our annual report this evening. We've invited the crew, and I'm glad that they've been here, but again, they may leave us. I think it's important for everyone to talk about and for them to hear COVID-19 and its impacts on our organizations and communities, our county, state, and nation continue to alter a lot of what we've done. And we at the RFA, just like at the city of Brier, I'm sure, hope this current wave of COVID will be the last, but that still remains to be seen. As a reminder, our agency transported the first known COVID-19 patient in the United States, January 21st of 2020. And this month, we started the 25th month of our COVID-related response. As of yesterday, we've transported 952 confirmed COVID-19 individuals, including 96 just in the month of January 2022. So again, we continue to minimize risk to our employees that are out in the field serving residents of Brier and our entire RFA, keeping them safe and continuing to have effective fire and EMS response has been a challenge. But like I told you last year, we're going to continue to meet that challenge until the pandemic is declared over. I'm happy Station 18's crew could hear this as well, but I just want you to know how hard the men and women serving the RFA and the city of Brier have worked during the pandemic. And I echo that, I'm sure, for council and staff in the city as well, and just residents that might be watching this. We understand that this has been a difficult time, and we just want to take another opportunity to thank our employees for their dedication and perseverance, and also the great relationships that we've continued developing over the pandemic. And again, just stay safe as we continue to move forward. So Mayor and Council, I know membership of council has changed a bit since we presented our 2020 annual report. So tonight, before we present that annual report in a PowerPoint, I'd like to show a video created in 2018. And this video is after the formation of our Regional Fire Authority, which we hope gives all of you either an introduction or perhaps a reminder of our agency's history, growth, and really just an overview of South County Fire which is your fire department in the city of Brier. With that, PIO Hines, please.
South County communities have long recognized that when it comes to fire service, the advantages of working together are far better than going it alone. In the 1970s, automatic aid agreements made it possible to systematically dispatch the closest available fire unit for 911 calls. The eventual consolidation brought with it additional benefits, such as the elimination of duplicate positions. Instead of 5 fire chiefs, just 1. The advantages of economies of scale, both in lowering costs and in organizational effectiveness, and the ability to provide services that small departments just cannot provide. Ultimately, 5 departments were brought together as follows. In 2000, Fire District 1 and 11 merge. In 2005, the Mount Lake Terrace Fire Department consolidates with Fire District 1, and the cities of Mount Lake Terrace and Brier contract service from the district. In 2010, the Edmonds Fire Department consolidates with Fire District 1 and contracts for service from the district. And in 2017, voters in Fire District 1 and the City of Linwood create a regional fire authority, combining District 1 and the Linwood Fire Department to form a new entity, South County Fire. South County Fire now serves more than 250,000 residents in Brier, Edmonds, Linwood, Mount Lake Terrace, and unincorporated South Snohomish County. Its nearly 300 employees include more than 260 firefighters who respond to just under 30,000 911 calls a year. As a result of this cooperative authority, we've been able to expand our services and do things as a regional provider that wouldn't be possible as individual departments. Daily staffing for hazardous materials and technical rescue responses. Marine fire and rescue. Neighborhood fire and injury prevention programs, including several for kids and senior citizens. Regional fire training through both the Snohomish County Fire Training Academy and Snohomish County Fire Training Consortium. National award-winning EMS and other innovative programs such as community paramedics who provide non-emergency follow-up to help frequent 911 callers access social services and assistance. And ACT to save a life. This new approach to first aid training can save more lives by focusing on just 3 skills that can make the life-saving difference in the minutes before firefighters arrive. Even though we are a regional agency, our roots remain in your neighborhood fire station. Our firefighters are part of your neighborhood and take an active role in community events. You can see them at neighborhood night open houses at your fire station, involved in area schools, and participating in other community groups. And now, your neighborhood station down the street, it has the support and resources of an entire regional fire service. Why is that important? Because critical calls where seconds count, such as fires and cardiac arrest, require a lot of resources. For example, high-performance CPR requires a minimum of 11 firefighters working together as a team to administer CPR, apply and operate a defibrillator, and provide critical medications. And with a house fire, a minimum of 15 firefighters are needed to perform all that's required to contain a fire to the room of origin. The life-saving advantages of a regional fire authority connected to the local community and its neighborhoods. We are your South County Fire.
Thank you, Leslie. All right. Mayor and Council, we'll be starting our PowerPoint presentation, and it's amazing just watching that video and reflecting on some of the faces I see that have gotten promoted since, or just have gotten a little bit older, including myself. It's not just the pandemic, I think that's aged us, but a lot has changed about South County Fire. So I'll give an update on some of the information from the video. So with that, Leslie, could we start the PowerPoint, please? All right, Mayor and Council, members of the public, this is our 2021 annual report. We do use a little bit of pictures that were pre-pandemic. So these are pre-COVID, so just getting that out there. So slide 2, please, Leslie. So you saw this in the video, and this is what I like to call houses and hotels for Monopoly. This is different size stations which signify our staffing levels throughout the RFA. Some of these stations have grown. So if you see station 15 next to the pool in Linwood, it's a bigger station that runs more calls and it has more people housed in it. What this really talks about is that, and mentioned in the video, fire districts 1, 11, Mount Lake Terrace Fire Department, the Edmonds Fire Department, and Linwood Fire Department have all become one. So really 14 stations throughout a very large area. Next slide, please. And the RFA was formed by a public vote in August of 2017 and then became an RFA in October of 2017. Mentioned in the video, 250,000 residents. The census has now brought us to 270,000 residents. Still have those 14 fire stations, but it was mentioned nearly 300 employees. We're well above that now. And I want to let Mayor and Council know that the staffing level since we presented last year has actually gone up a little bit because the city of Edmonds, effective March 1st, will be adding 2 more personnel on duty 24 hours per day. So what that means is we have 64 firefighters on duty from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then 58 overnight, so 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. over our 53 square mile area. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in the next slide, but we are a fire department, but the bulk of our business is EMS, emergency medical services, and all of our personnel are trained as firefighters or as paramedics. Next slide, please. So again, we are an all hazards fire department, but medical emergencies make up the bulk of our work. We do fires, we respond to motor vehicle collisions. We have personnel trained in hazardous materials and rescue. I mentioned Captain Hilt is a member of our hazardous materials response team. We do have a marine unit at the Port of Edmonds. We also have surface water rescue capability. And we really respond to any incident that dispatch sends us to where we can help. And a lot of what we do is community health, safety, and risk reduction, trying to prevent emergencies from occurring before they would happen or after the fact, trying to stop them from happening again. Next slide, please. Emergency medical services is 85% of the incidences in the city of Brier. That will change a little bit throughout the RFA, but it's well into the 80%, and it's been consistently that and growing throughout the formation of the RFA, and especially during the pandemic. So last year I looked at my notes, we were at 86% in Brier, we're at 85% this year. And again, all of our firefighters are trained up in this service. Next slide, please. Cardiac arrest is something that's very important to us to think about. And we are very proud at South County Fire that we've consistently been greater than 50% for our cardiac save rate. And that's well above the state and national average. We talked about our ACT program, or Act to Save a Life, to do training that's not full first aid, but to be able to provide antidote or compression, CPR, or tourniquet to stop medical bleeding. And even throughout the pandemic, we've continued to give that training virtually. I'll share with you an important part of my why is why it's so important, I think, for the fire department itself to be really good at this. My own father had cardiac arrest back before the RFA was formed. Members of the Linwood Fire Department, Edmonds Fire Department, Medic 7 came together to use an AED on him, get him to the hospital to have a bypass, and enjoy another 15 years of his life with my family. And again, had cardiac arrest when he passed in 2016, and it was our responders that did the best they could to give him another 15 years, and it didn't work out. But It's not just about fires, and it's not just about the normal EMS calls. We're seeing people throughout the community that have really been struck by the pandemic, but these calls still continue to happen on a daily basis throughout our communities. So next slide, please. We talked about regional training, and this is something that when I went to the academy, we went to North Bend, but we decided as a county through the agencies of Everett Fire, Marysville Fire, and Snohomish Fire and Rescue, or what was known as District 7, as well as South County Fire. We think we can do a better job training our personnel for the risks and hazards in our community and not send people to North Bend. So we actually do the majority of that training here at our headquarters site in South Everett. And we've had 2 other agencies join up to be part of that team, District 4 Snohomish last year, and very recently North County Fire Nest EMS RFA, Stanwood, Bryant area to the north, which also now includes the city of Arlington. We're going to go to another picture and talk about some of the hiring we've been doing. But in 2021, we added 25 new firefighters or firefighter paramedics combined as our RFA continues to grow. Next slide, please. And these are the friendly, happy, smiley faces when you get hired at the fire department, when you start your academy class. So we've got a great group of men and women from class 2021.1 right there. I'll point out firefighter Herbig on the top row, all the way to the right, number 7 at the top, grew up in Brier. That whole group is getting off probation here soon. We serve a 12-month probation to make sure that they've can learn all the tools of the trade and prove that they can be a full member of our organization. Academy class 2021-2 is now what we call hit the streets in January of 2022. So they've gone through the academy and they're on probation right now. And that's been a good group with us. And our next slide will show who is meeting our RFA commission right now, being introduced. We have a meeting going on at the same time as this meeting. We just extended offers to 20 new recruits that'll start the academy next Monday. So they started with us nearly 2 weeks ago. So this group of men and women, a good mix of firefighters and paramedics, some that are new, some experienced, some military veterans, some former volunteer firefighters, and some laterals are making up this big group. And this will be a very big class for us as we continue to just build our RFA, and as people that have got a decade or 2 or 3 under their belt go into retirement. So should be a great group. Next slide, please. You may recognize this individual. This is Deputy Fire Marshal David Sherman, who Mayor mentioned as one of the attendees at Brier staff meetings when he Deputy Chief Carl Fitter can attend those meetings. We had 73 contacts with Brier City staff or contractor inspections in 2021. Deputy Fire Marshal Sherman, his legacy, his father was a deputy chief with the Mount Lake Terrace Fire Department and also a fire marshal when he was with our organization. Next slide. Community outreach is important. I remember when this picture was taken when we were dropping off Santa because I did not wear warm enough gloves or enough layers of coat as I was freezing at the top of the hill by the restrooms there, just trying to make sure I stood out of the way and watch the Air and Light unit come in. So this was a fun event for a few council members. I was able to say hello, but this is a tradition that we love to carry on. And there was so many kids happy, despite the cold, seeing Santa got dropped off. So anyway, great event and look forward to seeing everybody again this Christmas for that event. Next slide, please. I have to give a compliment to Shawnery Guzman, who's not here, as well as Leslie Hines and some other members of our team, especially during the pandemic. We've done most training for car seat safety, home fire, our ACT first aid, CPR, child safety, aging in place, everything. We've been able to pivot as if we were a commercial business that had been doing it for years to make sure that we're messaging to our communities, that we're continuing to get information in the hands of our residents of the RFA. And I just cannot compliment the men and women that do that enough. And it really has expanded our outreach. So because people are working or people just can't get to a certain place at a certain time. And I would really look forward to continuing that type of delivery when we can, because I really think it broadens our reach. So again, we've got a PIO and you've got a Brier resident that's been a big part of this. So again, great job, team. Thanks, Leslie. Next slide. We continue to do all these programs. We are still in people's houses. These type of things are difficult right now because of the pandemic, but we normally will do our smoke detector checks, our bike helmets, and a lot of things also at the stations when people drop by. Our fire stations are still closed to the public, but we can't wait till those can open back up. And we do have a very good partnership with the Verdant Health Commission, Homage, senior centers, and a lot of other nonprofit organizations or NGOs that we can have interagency cooperation with and really expand our reach as well and help them out. It's great partnerships. Next slide. We have a program called Community Resource Paramedics, and I just wanted to give you the numbers. So what this program will look like is there's a 911 call that's occurred, and how can we prevent it from happening again? People that may not be able to get out of the house, they don't know that there's barriers to care, which we can break down and get them help, whether that is mental, whether that is help with their disabilities, to provide them a pathway for access to programs that they just didn't know were out in the community. So we had 9 enrollments for Brier residents with 26 contacts. And what that parlays itself to is people going to emergency rooms less. So the reduction of expected subsequent 911 calls was 30% and a 46% reduction in ER visits. And that's only with 9 enrollments. So it's really great. And people that enroll in the program in 1 year will continue until such time that they're done. We have a program that's managed by a captain paramedic, and there is additional community resource paramedics, 2 of them, which assist, as well as social workers. We have 2 that are on a grant program, as well as an admin assistant. It's a great program. So next slide, please.
Chief, if I might, so you've talked about this program before, and just like you said, for the 9, is there something that we could be doing on, I mean, I just think this outreach and just that impact, something that we could be doing between, with our websites or things to help make people aware? I mean, or do you feel like that awareness is out there on that that offering that you guys have?
Oh, that's a really great question. And there is, it has to be something that somebody wants to get help for. So we will do on site. So if Station 18 goes on a call, I see them on the screen, they're not on a call. If they go on a call right now and they identify that they think someone might want this program, they can have someone sign up right then. Okay. Then it goes into a queue, which is great. We also do retrospective analysis, multiple 911 calls. So if someone calls a certain amount of times over a certain time period, that'll identify. But I think just the kind of a passive marketing informational campaign always helps, because I had someone reach out to me through LinkedIn that I went to high school with just this week to let me know her mom was in a condo in Edmonds, and the crews were so great. They've fallen, and she doesn't know about the program, and so just gave her the information so she could reach out. So I think that's a great point, and I'll talk about that with the team and see if there's something we could.
Just knowing from my mom's experience, some things with my mom, my folks, and they weren't too far from, they lived in Seattle, but how great the folks were. I had a situation with mom, but I just having that thing and knowing, as somebody who's kind of taking, looking out for maybe our parents or whomever, knowing that even be able to register, because it might not be the individual, my mom would never ask for that, but I, as somebody concerned that live, 25 minutes away, knowing that is something to do. So, all right, well, thank you. No, that's really some very impactful numbers is just what really struck me there.
Yeah, it's been great. And, the Verdant Health Commission, or what was Hospital District number 2, has been a great partner. And they really try to do a lot with engaging in the communities. And it's been a great partnership, but I think we can expand on that. And we've been talking with our commission about that recently. I think that need is there. I think, I like to say, there is no 912. For 911, we're it. But when the emergency is over, or when we can prevent an emergency from happening, that's just so powerful and appreciated. So we have been doing a lot of COVID-19 vaccinations. I know Mayor Paul and I and our team, we've been talking, can we help with boosters? We've invited city staff down to some of our vaccination clinics. But one of the really nice developments is our relationship we've developed with the Edmonds School District as our key stakeholder, and then added the Mukilteo and Everett school districts to be able to partner with them so that we could help with the Seattle traveling nurses, as well as just with our staff, to vaccinate children that didn't have ability to do so. at schools. So we've been doing this. We started out at Meadowdale High School. We've been to multiple locations, and our next clinic is February 10th at College Place Middle School in Linwood. So another great aspect. This is one of our community resource paramedics, Jeanette Anderson, administering a vaccination to a homebound resident in Brier. So next slide, please. Okay, this is the part where I stop talking for this meeting for a little bit and pass it over to Chief Eastman. So interestingly enough, that's a great paint job on that fire station. And that is the same crew, I believe, joining us today with your Engine 18 and your Medic 18. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Chief Bob Eastman. Bob.
Thanks, Chief, Mayor, Council. I'm going to go over just the general response data that we typically and have provided to this city of Brier over the years. The one thing I do want to talk about in talking to Paula, we typically provide you with the RFA's annual report that has a little bit more detail on the whole RFA in general. As a result of the pandemic, I am currently working on the 2020 annual report along with the 2021 annual report for the RFA. So as soon as we get those completed and set up, we'll make sure that we send those reports down to the city of Brier, so each one of you sitting on the council can get the annual report. And it's been a crazy couple years, and that's just one of the things that with everything else kind of fell off, and we're getting to it now. So Leslie, next slide, please. So as we look at what's happening specifically in the city of Brier, we look at your call breakdown, which has been pretty consistent, like Chief said, and it's pretty consistent across all the geopolitical areas that we protect in general. About 85% of our dispatches are for EMS. And the data source for this is the county 911 data is what we utilize for this. And we look at your basic life support, which are your non-paramedic or your non-giving drugs and some of those things. They're sick people, but not as sick, but they need advanced procedures. 53% of the call demand in the city of Brier is BLS. And then the paramedic side, or the people that give medicines and carry the heart monitor and do some more of the advanced procedures, 32% of the calls in Brier are advanced life support. And then you can look at structure fires. We don't have that many structure fires in the city of Brier. My guess is most of you know each confirmed fire we had in the city of Brier. I want to say it was 6 last year, different varying degrees. Fire other are just other events that we go to that are non-technically flame fire, but they're gas leaks and some of those other events. And then the other calls are more of our good intent calls and service calls. And so that's pretty consistent with what you guys have seen as long as I've been doing the reporting, which is pretty much since we all became partners in fire service. Next slide, Leslie. Call demand. This is pretty interesting because we're seeing now that in 2020, as a result of the pandemic, we saw a significant decrease in call demand countywide, which you can see in 2020. You saw a significant reduction of call demand within the city of Brier. In 2021, we've caught back up to 2019's call load. In a lot of the areas that the RFA provides service for, we've exceeded the 2019 number significantly. And we actually see the current trend. We see the call demand continuing to go up and increasing. And we anticipate that happening. Part of that, and like everybody knows, we've got lots of development going on in the southwest Snohomish County. And when you have development, you have an influx of people, as our density increases, maybe not necessarily in the Brier city limits, but around us, you see the call demand go up, and that's what we kind of expect. And so last year, you guys had 442 calls within the city. Next slide. One of the big things that we measure, and I'll explain what this is because I know there's some new council council people on the council, is we measure our response times at what we call a 90% fractile. What that means is when we have a target in the RFA that we want to get to a call within 8 minutes or less 90% of the time. And that's from the time dispatch receives the call. That's not from the time we get dispatched. That's from the time the 911 operator picks up the call and asks you what your emergency is. And if you look, we've been struggling as a result of increased call demand. And you can see in 2020, we dipped a lot and had an increase in total response time. Part of that had to do with how we dispatch. South County uses a rapid dispatch. When we went down the path of the pandemic, we stopped rapid dispatch using our emergency medical dispatch, which is the pre-arrival instructions. So when you see the dispatch on TV, when they have the dispatcher giving the person that called 911 things that they can do to help solve the problem or help mitigate the problem until the 911 responders get there. We have the ability with our Pro QA, which is that program within dispatch, that has a pandemic component to it. We call it Protocol 36. And there was a certain time frame in 2020, 6, 7, 8 months, that we stopped rapid dispatch, allowed the dispatcher to ask a few more questions before dispatching a unit, so we could ensure that the responders, based on what the dispatch told them, could don the appropriate protective gear. So initially in the pandemic, we had folks wearing gloves, gowns, face shields, N95s, booties, and fully encapsulating themselves when they go to the call. We've since backed some of that off, but in order, early in the pandemic, we wanted to give the responders as much information as we could. So we ensured that they were safe going in. And that was for two purposes. One is we wanted to make sure that we didn't inadvertently get a crew sick, which means then we couldn't use them in the street. And we didn't know what COVID was going to do. And we were concerned that if COVID spread through the fire service, we were going to have a hard time having staff to staff the fire engines to actually do the work. And so we ensured that our crews were protected. And we sacrificed a little bit of response time, allowing the dispatchers to ask a few more questions for that purpose, which is why you saw the dip in 2020. And you can see us getting back and starting to improve those response times again. Now, what this means is we made the 8 minutes or less 55% of the responses we went on in the city of Brier. If you look at the 90% time on calls, and it's 10 minutes and 19 seconds, that means that 90% of the calls that happen in the city of Brier, we arrived on scene in 10 minutes, 19 seconds or less. And that's from the time dispatch received the call. And that's actually back to our total 90% based on what we did in 18. So things are getting better. And a lot of that has to do with congestion in traffic and, multiple calls and other things, but we continue to work on that. And as we have further conversations about, potential regionalization efforts, we'll have some more conversations about this and how we've been working in other parts of the RFA to reduce these times in other parts of the RFA. Next slide, Leslie.
I was right. Could you just real quick. It's interesting is between 2019, you had a 62% in 8 minutes or less. Fell off in 21, but yet your overall response time is down 14 seconds, 19 versus 21, which is quite interesting. What any particular reason for that you've identified?
Well, I don't know. I haven't looked at the information in that kind of detail yet. I think we're looking at some of the other things we look at from the RFA when we look at the overall RFA data stuff. We look at unit hour utilization by hour of the day per unit. And so we can compare, you know, the first due station for you guys is station 18, station 22, station 19 become your second due units. And so we look at how busy they are, right? Because though station 18 may be running the same number of calls, if station 19, station 22 calls continue to rise, they're unavailable for second calls in the city of Brier. And then you end up getting station 15, station 21, which have to drive further. That's one aspect.
Okay.
Some of the other things that we've been dealing with over this last year is that as a result of the pandemic, the challenges that hospitals have, the nursing shortage, the burnout rate, the census that have been going out the hospitals, which I know you all have heard in the news. We've had some days starting back when we had the heat wave of having some very extended drop-off times, or what we call wall times. So the amount of time a unit has to wait at the hospital before we can transfer care or the patient's retransfer to the hospital. So we've had certain times that was in excess of 2.5 hours. And so there's been a lot of work happening. We've got great partnerships with the hospitals to try to help level load that. But when with this last wave of the pandemic and the new variant, we had very, very high call demand. So our call demand was higher than normal. So that's one aspect of it. We had increased call demand during certain times, which, you know, increases multiple simultaneous calls, which increases the time that not your first due or station 18 is responding. And then you have when station 18 does respond during those times where the hospitals are feeling the pressure, it takes us longer to drop the patients off and get them back in service.
Interesting.
So there is multiple things that
Right,
are happening
sure.
as a result of this.
Right.
And so we've been talking, when we look at 2020 data, we look at 2021 data, there's always going to be an asterisk behind those that talk about the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that relate. So when I look at 2021, I compare it back to 2019. So when I looked at Brier's data, I looked at 2019 because 19 was the last normal prior to, and though our A minutes or last time is a little bit less than we were in 19. If you look at our overall 10 minutes and 19 seconds is better at the 90%.
Yeah, that's what I was noticing was that 19 over, realizing 2020 is just anomalous all through with all the things you stated.
Yep.
So that was just very intriguing to me. So interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be more normal in 2022 and get back to, you know, we rely on data a lot to help make some of the decisions we make in the RFA. And it's hard when you put asterisks.
Well, I know when we were talking about RFAs the original time, the amount of data, and that's partly why I think I still ask these questions, is it's just, it was pretty impressive what you guys could pull back for data on all things from the regions, the areas. You guys were slicing and dicing it every which way when we were doing the original RFA discussions. It was really interesting when you really started getting into it about all that nuances. So yeah, thank you.
And we're better now because the data is more reliable and we're actually better with it. So next slide, Leslie. And I think I'll stop there and give it back to the chief for questions.
Bob, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I guess before we get to questions, I just wanted to just say a few things, and it's a little bit about our relationship between the city and what was Fire District 1. I mentioned I was a Mount Lake Terrace firefighter. We started serving through Fire District 1 in 2001. We formed an interlocal agreement in 2005, and that agreement transferred to South County Fire from Fire District 1 when our RFA was formed. And from my perspective, being in a number of ranks during that time and being a City of Mount Lake Terrace employee, the fire service and as well as the bonds, the strengths of our partnership between the city and what's now South County Fire just continues to strengthen. We want to thank you for your partnership. I want to speak on behalf of our entire organization and specifically including our 7-person elected fire commissioners when I say how much we value that nearly 21-year partnership. And we look forward to that partnership continuing well into the future. And with that, that's my close, and we'll open it up for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Hovis.
Back to you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Chief
Sorry.
Hovis. We do really appreciate a lot of the information you guys shared and the interaction and the cooperation that we receive. It's really remarkable, and we're so thankful for your service. Any question from council members of Chief Hovis or anybody else?
I have a real quick question. It's a two-parter. The 30% decrease in calls and 46% decrease in hospitalizations, was that an average we saw? I mean, that's again for Brier. Is that kind of fit? Is that par for the course? Is that what we see decrease-wise versus other cities?
That was for that program, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for our
the
community
program.
resource
Is that
paramedic.
kind of the average we see in Mount Lake Terrace, Linwood?
It can be. I will just say that there's certain populations that have a higher age average in other cities or other areas, and other places where people will try to stay in the home a little bit longer versus assisted living facilities and nursing homes, where it really can vary over time. Each one of our communities has a different feel and a different zoning, different density, so it will change. But we've seen pretty consistent rates like that, but not when you have a small subset of just 9 to get that sort of result is pretty exciting.
So that did exceed the expectation, I guess,
Yes.
is my question.
Yes.
Other part, now, the police reform laws that we saw go into place toward the latter part of 21, if I'm not mistaken, some of those non-emergency calls were then previously sent from 911 to police, now are sent to fire. If that is correct, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, and I would just say that it's handled a little bit differently depending on each law enforcement agency's interpretation during that time frame.
Okay, I was going to say, is any of that 442, that jump we saw from 419, I think it was 419 in 2020 to 442 in 21, none of that's in there? Okay. Okay.
I don't know.
In general, it's more of a, normally law enforcement would be going with us and maybe they weren't, or they were going possibly first and then we were getting dispatched second through our combined Snow 911 dispatch center, but not the effect with call volume like that. It was more of the effect of the environment on the personnel responding, like our crew from Station 18 and others.
Thank you. That clears that up for me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you for that question. Any other questions from council members?
Don Moran here. Just looking at the last 3 years, looks like we've averaged 2019 through 2021, a little over 430 calls per day. So that's 1.2 calls per day, which is pretty good activity. Have you seen a change in the complexion of the calls that you're responding to? So I assume there's a baseline incidence of myocardial infarction, CPR that you have to perform. With COVID, are you seeing more respiratory distress? Are you seeing more drug overdoses now? And then maybe going back to a comment made earlier, are you seeing a difference in the complexion of responses for car accidents, whether it be pedestrian car accidents or car accidents for which you're requiring emergency services? Just wondering, has Brier changed in its utilization of your professional services?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think it's changed statistically. I can tell you that over one of the biggest increases of call demand we've seen, just in general, is behavioral health, right? The behavioral health call load has gone up some, and with COVID and when people were getting COVID, some of the precursors that we see, shortness of breath, falls, were some of the indicators of folks that were calling and were positive with COVID. And as you know, well, maybe you don't know, falls are a significant number of responses we go on, along with shortness of breath. So I don't think COVID specifically, we could say these things change as a result of the pandemic from a call perspective. Specifically in Brier, I think we see a general increase of behavioral health type calls as people struggle. And it could be that that behavioral health triggers their pre-existing conditions or underlying medical health, and as a result of becoming short of breath or becoming anxious or just not feeling quite right, you add those two together. So I unless Chief thinks something different, I don't think we're seeing any significant shifts like that. I think we're seeing what we have normally seen. Obviously, when you have weather, right, you had 13 car accidents because of ice storms and stuff. You see those anomalies as a result of a weather event. Windstorms do that too. So some of those spikes we can attribute to a day in time based on either windstorm or flooding or that. But to answer your question specifically, I think things have been pretty consistent and no statistical anomalies as a result of the pandemic.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
two. So last year I poked at this little, and I'll continue to do so because it is an important item. The 8-minute goal that you have, and my understanding is anything over 8 minutes results in a report that has to be written. I don't know if that's still correct or not, but I think that was the case at one time. If we're seeing percentages of 55, 52, 62, historically not achieving that 90% level of eight minutes or less, is that a realistic goal? And if it is there some effort to get those numbers, even back to the 2017 of 76%, say?
So I would say that it's a very strong goal. I think if over the last few times we've met with the city of Brier, city of Montlick Terrace, we know that there's an additional need for resources in this area, specifically a transport unit. We've been talking about that with, I know we've talked about with Montlick Terrace. I know it was brought up a couple years ago when I was with Brier and presented this report. So we know we have increased call demand going on, and the contracts kind of set us to having, this many people in this station, this many people in this station, and with a set cost, right? And if we want to adjust that, that requires a conversation and takes time. And so that's one aspect of it, is we have identified the need with our standard of cover report, our capital facilities planning, of an additional need here in Southwest between the city of Montlick Terrace and Brier. We see the need for an additional resource that will help those response times. The other thing we've identified in the facilities plan within the RFA is the fact that we've identified 3 gaps, 216th to 212th and 99, Value Village property by just north of the Kruger Clinic. There's a need for a fire station there, someplace by the Spaghetti Bowl there on Alderwood Mall Parkway is another gap that we've identified as a need. And then further north up by Stickney Gap or Lake Stickney. We actually own a piece of property at Manor Way. That's another gap. And so there's a couple of things that we can do to solve that. And one is we need additional units and to help with the capacity and the call demand that currently exists. And then the ability to put in infill fire stations to cut down on the drive times of your backup and mutual aid units to keep that and get that to place. And so we've identified the need for that. And then obviously the as we continue down the process with an RFA is fire stations in the capital to build fire stations, and then the long-term strategy to staff those fire stations will go a long way to improve response times. And there was a time where we were mating the 8 minutes, and it wasn't that many years ago. But density, traffic, and the road network, you can only go so fast in a fire engine or an aid car to get from A to Z. And as we get busier, and your neighboring fire stations get busier, for City Station 19, which is Brier's second due unit. When we started this contract, they were running about 1,900 calls a year, and they're up to 2,900 calls this year. And so when you add that together and it's one unit, that's a lot of work for a single unit to cover in their service area. In the RFA, we tend to, when they get to about 2,000 calls, consider putting a second unit to have station reliability. And so part of that is when you need your second resource, or because your first Station 18 is on a call, 19 is the most logical second in unit for you. But with their call demand being so high, the odds of them being unavailable now today versus what they were 20 years ago, you're now getting station 20, station 14, station 21, station 22 as a result, just because of the way call demand runs, and we need a few extra resources to shore that up. There's plans to do that. It just, some of that just takes a little bit of time to get there. I hope that answered it.
I'll try to
Thank you.
handicap Councilmember Marley and council members. I used to work at Station 18, so drove by it today, but now it's the Firefighter Memorial Park. There was 3 people out of Station 18 in 2001, and still now Brier's Fire Station, you're seeing 3 people at Station 21, or excuse me, Station 18. So with that growth that Bob's talking about, people are something that we really need to continue to look at. The service levels in the interlocal agreement are the same as they've been since 2005. So we're going to continue to work on that. The RFA has added 20 additional personnel in ops since it was formed in 2018. And now with this addition from the city of Edmonds, we'll be adding 10 more personnel. But it's been growing so fast. That's what's been difficult for us to continue to keep up with. So that's a very great question. So thank you.
Thank you. The other question I had, so you have a map that was produced, and this is an old one from back in about 2008. Looks really good for Brier, by the way. This response times, from anywhere from 1 minute to 6 minutes on the map. Do you still produce that map? And if so, is it possible to get an updated copy of that?
Yeah, I think I have the privilege of coming and seeing you on the 15th. I can bring a map, an updated map, and I believe I can do one looking at different times of day, so you can see how traffic impacts responses during high traffic areas. I'll see if I can get Steve to whip that up for us and bring to you on the 15th.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Val, I saw you had your hand up.
Oh, sorry, Mayor, if I could just, I went off screen.
Yeah.
I went off screen
Yeah.
for a second. I apologize. And this is probably never, ever going to happen again, but our RFA board is meeting tonight and they only have one item left and they're waiting for Chief Eastman and I. And that item is the city of Mill Creek tonight passed 7-0, a resolution they're going to put on the April 26th special election to join our RFA. So I don't want to say no more questions. And Valerie, I apologize for saying it went to your question, but Chief Eastman will be back on the 15th. As my board chair calling, just saying, tell Brier we love them, but you and Bob can come back and you can get back here. So anyway, just want to throw that out there, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We'll let you go and we'll make sure Val gets her question next week.
I'll follow up later. Thank you.
Right,
Thank you
guys very, very much.
All right. Thank you so much for the invitation again. Have a great evening.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Station 18. Thank you, BC Curtis. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you for that. I hope that was helpful, and we'll actually have more information coming from them in the future. At this point, I'd like to have our Chief of Police, Holmquist, join the panel.
Do you want to ask the council for their meetings and stuff first, really quick?
Yeah, we can do that.
Because we haven't gotten to that because we went to fire immediately.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and let us know your meetings. I know a number of you have extra meetings with respect to fire, South County Fire. So go ahead.
So
go ahead.
Thursday, February 3rd, I did attend the RFA meeting.
Okay. Others?
I attended an RFA meeting. It was Wednesday, I believe, Paula, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes. On the 2nd.
Yes.
I too joined the meeting along with Dave and met with Chief Eastman and getting debriefed on what to expect going forward with the new RFA proposal.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yeah, best fire meeting, also community transit Thursday, and I did bills yesterday.
Right. Mr. Nick, you met with?
Yeah, met with the mayor and Chief Nick as the new liaison. We had a very good meeting.
Dennis, we're losing you again.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, but
Okay.
everything you just said, we didn't get.
Okay, did you hear that I attended the meeting with the chief and the mayor on the 1st?
We got that.
Very good meeting, and I said we have some good things coming our way.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right.
Yeah, I've got a list.
Valerie.
Okay, Val.
It's been
Yes.
a busy couple of weeks. So on the 27th, I attended the AWC, what do they call it? City Action Days lobbying events. On the 28th, I listened in on the legislative update with AWC again. On the 2nd, I did the RFD briefing, attended that. On the 3rd, there was a library board meeting. And then finally, earlier today, I attended the Verdant Creating Community Connections meeting.
All right. Thank you, Val. All right. Is that all of them? Okay. Thank you. So, Paula, if you could bring Chief onto the panel.
Doesn't he owe me donuts for that or something? Or is that you
Possible.
that owes me donuts? I think you both owe me donuts.
All right.
He's supposed to be coming in. Hang on.
There he is.
There we go.
All right. I want to welcome Chief Holmquist to our meeting. As all of you know, the Chief's been with us for an entire 3 weeks, but he hit the ground running. And with respect to the staff, I must say we're still a little bit pinching ourselves about the grapevine in the Chief. And so we're really excited. And so welcome to the meeting, Chief. Oh, I can't hear you.
Dennis sold him a microphone.
Problem is, it wasn't showing him muted. No,
Okay,
now he's muted.
Now it shows you're muted.
So he had he had an external mic mute or something.
Yeah. You need to
I didn't-
unmute yourself in Zoom now. Okay.
Okay. Oh, nope.
No. You just put it back.
There, okay.
Okay. Try talking really quick. Okay,
Yeah,
we
so
got nothing.
either it doesn't have the right microphone selected, or you got a separate.
Go down to the right-hand corner. Look for a microphone.
Now, if he just started whipping out the ASL, that would be impressive.
My daughter did 4 years of that at the high school. 3 years. Yeah,
My son's in it now.
yeah, she really liked the teacher.
Come on now.
Cool.
Super
Hey,
there we go.
There you are. I don't know. Paul is looking to get me my work computer. Maybe this one is just had it on its last legs. But
I'll steal your one.
yeah, I was thinking about you. That was really interesting RFA meeting.
Yeah.
I have a new appreciation for firemen, sort of.
Yeah.
But, no, that was very good, very good. We've been busy. I come to work every day. I have been enjoying it, and I just love the staff that we have. We brought in the new police clerk, as I had maybe mentioned prior, Karen Howell. If you haven't met her yet, she's doing a phenomenal job. She's getting trained. Hopefully maybe the last day with Maria on Friday, just kind of going over evidence and maybe cleaning up some of the stuff that only Maria can assist with. So she's done very well and gotten a good relationship with the officers and the other city staff. So I am very excited about Karen working for the police department. Today I had a meeting with Department of Emergency Management with the mayor, and interesting thing happened where they were doing elections, and I'm now the vice chair of that Snohomish County group. I have no idea what that entails.
Stuck it to the new guy, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're on it's called an advisory committee to the Department of Emergency Management and for Snohomish County, and there's a lot of different people, a lot of different cities represented, and Yeah, Nick was elected vice chair, and so he'll have a direct representative on that committee, which is good for us.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. And it's, I mean, I've always kind of been one that likes to jump into the deep end. So I'm looking forward to it. We were excited that the mayor offered a conditional job offer to our police lieutenant position that I'm very thankful that you guys had put together prior to my arrival. I'm not going to go too much into it. I'll let the mayor explain that further as much as he wants to at this time, but we are very excited for the possibility of him coming on board with us. He will be an amazing asset to myself and the officers for another layer between myself and the patrol officers. It's highly needed. We're in background with one officer right now from Federal Way. Kelly Otaki's been doing an amazing background job for us. She's tenacious, she's thorough. I enjoy her. She's got great energy. And so she's combing through all of his stuff right now and hopefully be able to come up with a good recommendation for me. We decided on not moving forward on one of our candidates. It just wasn't a right fit. And I want to make sure that the officers that we hire are ones that are going to perform, that are, again, the right fit for a Brier police officer, and that I feel confident moving forward that they will be able to fulfill that role. So I did not feel comfortable with that. So I passed on that. And some people say like, well, but you need people. And I'm like, but I don't need any people. I need the right people. So I hope you can appreciate the fact that I passed on somebody. I do have one other one that I'm trying to wrestle down right now and see if he would be wanting to move here or not move here. He lives in the area, but wants to come to this police department. So if we were to accomplish that, we would be at full staffing. And I'm pretty excited about that. Let's see here. Been doing a lot of policy updates with our Lexipol system to get our manual of standards up to what 2022 standards should be. And that's moving actually forward pretty good. Other than that, that's pretty much what I've been doing. I've also been talking with the mayor this week about the idea of hiring and retention bonuses. This is something, retention is just key to not only keep staff, but to also thank them for the community service that they have given to Brier. And with the three officers that we have, they have willingly remained. They enjoy their jobs, and I want to keep them. And I think that in today's times, even with Brier being a very close-knit community and very supportive in this world, and with other agencies doing like types of programs of thanking their employees for staying, this is something that I'm in discussions with the mayor about. Regarding the hiring bonuses, you know, this is the reality of hiring in this diversified job market, and incentivizing recruitment is just one of those essential tools to build interest within Brier. And that's really the platform that I'm walking on right now with the mayor in these discussions. So I'm hoping that they move forward and we can continue to keep our staff and we can attract those candidates that we want to be serving Brier.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Chief. So yeah, I just going to echo some of the things that he said. My meetings with the other mayors across the board, it doesn't matter the department, police, public works, administrative, all the mayors are saying the same thing. We can't find enough people, enough applicants. We're working desperately to try to keep the staff that we have. And there's a lot of competition from the private sector with respect to salaries. And so the reality of it is, and those of you who are in the private sector who are looking to maintain or recruit new people, you understand exactly what we're talking about. It's no different for us. So what the chief was talking about is something that I'm fully in support of, and we'll be looking more in detail. I do want to thank Maria.
All due respect, people in the private sector didn't have a large portion of society trying to demonize their profession. So, I'm sorry, that's
So
the elephant
true.
in the room. I think it's
Yeah.
unfair, and it's got to be at least addressed.
Yeah, no, it's, we definitely want to show our appreciation because it certainly has been a lot of negative stuff about, police officers, and our experience is that we have great ones and we want to keep them. I do want to thank Maria for her help with in the interim when we didn't have a clerk, police clerk, and her support. And Karen, I spoke with Karen this morning. She's been with us a week now, and she's very thankful for the organized structure that Maria set up and for the assistance that she's provided in the interim. So I just want to do a shout out for her for that. Any questions for the chief, the council?
Just a quick comment. I was walking down Old Poplar the other day, and one of your officers was parked alongside there, which was great because just about a day before that, I'd received a comment from somebody about how there should be increased speed patrol on that road. And so I stopped to say hi to him, and our conversation was interrupted because he had to pull over a speeder on that road. But, just really pleasant conversation, and I know that people appreciate the increased patrol.
Thank you.
I'll echo that. I'll echo that, Dave. I mentioned at the last meeting, but again, even this week, I've had citizens pull me aside and say, great smile that they're seeing the ticket book coming out and the officers pulling cars over. They like the colors of red and blue lights flashing on the side streets. So it's a thing they hadn't seen in quite a while. But Chief, I do have a question for you. You know, you mentioned you have a candidate, and what's the logistics? You said you had a candidate you're doing a background on, and the individuals down in Federal Way. Is commuting from Federal Way an issue that would be prohibitive for a new officer?
I don't believe he actually lives in Federal Way. That's where he his employment.
Oh, okay.
Federal Way Police.
Okay.
We had an officer that commuted from Tacoma pretty regularly for a number of years.
We had somebody who
God
lived in
bless 'em.
Graham that came to work for us. We've had people that lived in Cedar Woolley. I mean, we get them from all over.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Keep up the
You
good
bet.
work. And
Absolutely.
we'll, appreciate you coming on the meetings and letting the council know about all the good things that are happening. Appreciate your work.
Anytime.
All right. Moving on. Approval of minutes. Item A, I entertain a motion for the city council minutes of January 25.
I second that motion.
Okay, I can't make it. Can
Oh.
you make-
You have to make the motion.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Hold on that.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion by Moran. We have a second by
Nick.
Nick. All right. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say nay, and the motion passes. Moving on to workshop.
Mr. Mayor, I would move approval of Brier City Council workshop minutes of February 1st, 2022.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Gallagher, a second by Lockhart for workshop minutes of February 1. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You opposed, say nay, and the motion passes. Moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda is items that we have discussed before. Item A is a confirmation and reappointment of Tom Hanson to the Planning Commission, position 5.
Move to approve reappointment Tom Hanson, Planning Commission, position 5, with the term set to expire January 31st, 2024.
Second.
Marley, motion, second by Roseman. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing
Thanks
none,
to
all,
Tom Hansen for serving.
yes. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay, and the motion passes.
And I like buying new cars, so I'll move for approval of authorization, the purchase of the 2021 Dodge Durango police vehicle off the state contract in an amount not to exceed $40,384 and 68/100
Second.
We have a motion by Gallagher, a second by Lockhart. Any
Chief gets a
discussion?
new ride.
Yes. All right, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay.
It's got a Hemi.
And congratulations, Chief, new car. Finally, HVAC units. We did get some more information on this. I know we talked about it. The fact that the costs have gone up significantly. Inflation is here, and it's going to be it's going to be a big deal for our city. But anyway, motion.
Mr.
Well, I
Mayor,
can
move
buy
to
those.
approve the purchase of two
I guess I'm
HVAC.
to approve.
Mr. Marley.
Dennis is dealing with his delay.
Yeah.
It just
Two
went up
HVAC
$1,000.
GASLINE Mechanical in the amount of $24,895.75 per unit for a total cost of $49,791.50.
Second.
All right, we got a motion by Marley, a second by Crinky, I think. Any discussion of the motion?
Is there any way we can lock in a price on the next HVAC unit?
No.
Only if we're
Yeah.
willing to sign the contract right now. That's
It's amazing what is happening. It's almost scary.
yeah. Tomorrow, when we send the information over on these two, these will be locked in at those prices. And probably
Okay.
as we approach budget time later this year, we will have to reach out and look for new quotes to see where we might be next year when we have to get the next one.
Yeah, because we still have a number of them to go.
Oh, yeah.
At least we don't have trees dropping branches on them
Yeah.
anymore.
That's going to be a big help.
So thanks to the tree removal,
Yes.
it's going to extend the life of some of those units. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay, and the motion passes. All right, under new business, we have a consideration of a developer extension agreement from the former owner, GHIAS, to the new owner, Jones. Now, this extension, there's no changes. The only thing that's changing is the ownership. We've already approved this GHIAS property owner, but partway through development, the ownership changed. So there's really nothing that's changed except for the owners. And so this has already been through approval, and we're simply asking you to change the ownership. So I'd entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'd move that we approve the developer extension agreement change from the former owner of GHIAS to the new owner's Jones, as so provided in our packet.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Crinky, a second by Nick. Any discussion of the motion?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe some clarification. In the extension agreement, there's mention of a performance bond and contract value with the work being completed before March 31, 2026. Does that sound right? Is that a
Yes.
5-year?
Yes.
4 years from now? They have until that period of time to complete the work?
Yes, they do.
That's usual?
Yes. They have 5 years from the time it was originally done. So the folks that are taking it over are now down to 4 years because the original was done last year.
Okay. Okay.
Yep, that's normal. Mostly people are accelerating as fast as they can because of cost increases.
Yeah. Okay,
all right. Thank you. Any?
Question.
Yes.
I know this came up when we looked at this originally, and this doesn't impede my opinion of this particular extension. But I'm curious, is there a plan as far as the city goes to smooth that intersection in that right-of-way area? The current way it is, it has
Juts out.
The shoulder kind of continues and then it's a barrier at the end of it.
Yeah.
Is there a plan around that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, because the people are not subdividing the property. Therefore, we can't make them give up the right of way and make them put in sidewalks in that area. And it was when GHIAS was originally looking at the property and what to do with it, they actually did come forward with a subdivision. And part of the reason why they gave that up and went to just the single home was because it was cost prohibitive for all of the stormwater that would have been involved with having to put in sidewalks and then have the two houses and everything. And so they decided instead to go with that big gigantic 6,000 square foot that's sitting there. And the new people don't want two houses. They like that shop back there and they're gonna just finish the one house.
Okay, anything else? All right, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay, and the motion passes. Okay, moving on to miscellaneous business. We will have a workshop next week.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Regarding the proposal that the League of Women Voters sent, it was a request for us to endorse some policy changes at the county council level. I wanted to feel out the council to see if we were interested in pursuing learning more about this or possibly endorsing it. Basically, these proposals advocate that the Snohomish County should become an evergreen community, which is defined by our state legislature to have 3 criteria. And basically they need to have an urban forestry plan, they need to have dedicated budget towards urban forestry, and they need to accommodate, sorry, I have it in my cheat sheet here. I missed one more thing. And they need to have clear tree care ordinances. So basically it's just elevating the importance of tree care and management on a countywide level. So the reason that this is coming in front of us is that the county is going through their comprehensive plan updates, and this is a policy proposal brought forth by one of the county council members, Megan Dunn, in order to augment the county comprehensive plan with this information. The reason I thought Brier might be interested in this, and when League of Women Voters brought it to me, we discussed it, was because if the county should adopt additional tree protections, I do think that there could be some protection against some of the unincorporated areas that border Brier. There could be some protection against similar developments that we saw as in the Atlas and Barker development because of the tree removal and maintenance that would be necessary on a county level for that. So I bring this before you, just interested to hear if anybody is interested in pursuing or talking about it further. We could get somebody to present more information. It is going in front of County Council on the 15th of February, and they will be deciding whether they're going to adopt it to the comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? Anybody?
I had tried reading through, I looked through what they supplied us in the email, but it didn't give enough about what the actual, at least I was unclear what the actual plan was. I also wasn't sure. I know there's certain things you can do at county, but you can't you can't press it down into the city's guidelines. And so that was some things I wasn't quite clear on what those implications or ramifications would be as it pertained to the city. So that was some of the things, at least when I looked at it, there are a lot of little bullets they had, kind of lower down, but it wasn't actually the cohesive, this is what we're proposing.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know where that doc was or something, but I hadn't found it.
I scanned through it quickly just prior to the meeting tonight, so I confess I didn't go in exhausting detail, but we do have a comprehensive plan that does address the issues of vegetation here within our community. And this seems to be a countywide plan, which would augment and build on what we've already have within Brier. Looks like the benefits would accrue to, not necessarily to us as citizens, but around the surrounding areas. The issue that I did see in the RCW itself was that there would be an anticipated cost to make this available, and we based on a per resident who participates, per city resident. So indeed, I would be interested in hearing more from the representatives to kind of present this to us, so I understand what the pros and the cons are, especially since we are somewhat budget constrained. So I'm all in favor of more information, including going back and maybe reading a little more of the fine detail myself.
Yeah, I agree with Don, because the devil's in the details. You never know how those laws actually get coded and what effect it has. And it seems to me that they should have thought about that when they put high density all over the place.
Okay, anybody else? All right, thank you, Val.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to auditing of accounts, Mr. Gallagher.
All right, well, as luck would have it, I didn't see the payroll checks.
You don't get those. It's just the sheet that
So I
you
have
guys get in
to-
your packet.
The luck has
Move
nothing to do with
approval,
it.
and I didn't get to look at them. Oh, man, I don't know if I'm up for this. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to move that we approve the January 2022 payroll checks numbers 43410 through number 43415 and EFT transactions in the amount of $129,278.35.
Second that motion.
Motion by Gallagher, second by Nick. Any discussion of the motion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Hey,
Any opposed, say nay. And the motion passes.
Aye.
And then I would move that we approve the January 2022 claim checks numbers 43416 through number 43449 in the amount of $124,721.22. And voided check number 43072, reason lost in the mail and reissue.
Second.
Motion by Gallagher, second by Marley. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And the motion passes. All right, thank you for a somewhat lengthy, but I think very informative city council meeting. We will see you next Tuesday night. Thank you all.
You're not gonna sneak it by. Great haircut, Dale. I
Thank you.
recognize haircuts.
Yeah. All right, bye-bye.
Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.